Welcome to RockSim Live! This is episode number 50. I guess that's a milestone. We've been doing this. We started at the beginning of the year, and now we're on the last day of the year here in Colorado Springs, and we're still going. So, awesome. Yeah, like I said, this is number 50. I never thought we would have got this far, but I am certainly glad we did. I am so glad that you stuck around and watched this. Yeah, this has been quite the roller coaster. I wish I had something special to do for episode 50, but we're going to do what we normally do, and that's talk about RockSim and how to run the software, how to make you a better modeler, any of your questions. So I am monitoring the chat over here on the side. And if you have a question about RockSim, go ahead and ask it now, and that will be the topic of the day. Yeah, I have no agenda except for what you want to talk about. We have Carlos K. from Marietta, Georgia in the house. Rick DeFosses from New Hampshire reporting in. John Preto from Las Vegas. Cool. I don't think I've seen John's name here before. Fat Bank from Katy, Texas. Dennis Cross. Hey, first time I'm getting to watch one of these live. Great. Yeah, being New Year's Eve, hopefully we'll get a few more. I think we have as many as we had last week on Christmas Eve, so that's cool. Dennis Cross from Kansas. Somebody said we lost the sound. My microphone seems to be working. Fatbank asks, has the random crash bug been resolved? And the answer to that one is no, because it's random. In order to fix it, we need to figure out if it's not random. Yeah, the one that I've seen that's mostly not random is opening a design with another design already open. So we can talk about that. We have Carlos saying, please use RockSim to show details on the Zephyr 1 certification flay with and without thermals at NARS Soars Mill Springs Academy in Ephrata, Georgia. Okay, we can try that. Mark Sell says, I have sound. Dennis says, I have sound is good here. I have audio, good. Let me show you my screen. Go over to here. I am on ApogeeRockets.com, which you can see up here. To get to RockSim, if you've never used RockSim before, we should have a RockSim banner right here. You could click on that. If you want to see the RockSim live training episodes, click on this one right here. This was episode 49 last week, Christmas Eve, and these were the topics that we talked about. Here's a link to the video, and then here are the timestamps. So if you wanted to find out what I said about filling spirals and tubes, go to 15 minutes and 36 seconds into that video, and you can find all 49 episodes right there. If you want to download a RockSim trial version, go to How To and Guides, come here to Software, and click up here for the free trial. There's frequently asked questions right here. If you want to know about RockSim and say, what is RockSim? Click on that, and it gives you all kinds of information about RockSim and what it can do. If you want to see our tutorials that we made, again, come down here to How To and Guides and then Software, go across to RockSim Tutorials, and that will take you to our video tutorials. This is the original ones that I made, but now we have 49 new ones from our RockSim live training sessions. So there's a lot of information on how to use this, but I can try to talk you through some of these. So we have the first question from Carlos. He's asking the Zephyr 1. It's the Zephyr, but it's the level 1 rocket, we call it. He wants to see it flown at Georgia with thermals and without thermals. Okay, so thermals are only available in RockSim. They're not available in RockSim Pro, nor are they available in the Launch Visualizer. So here I have RockSim. And let me show you where the thermals are. This is a rocket called the Habu that I'm working on right now. This is a new kit that we're working on. That's kind of what it looks like. It's a pretty simple rocket. It's a skill level 1, but I can show you thermals on here. Go to the Prepare for Launch, which is this button up here, which is kind of like the base view of the rocket as it's coming down to the pad. So there's 2 little arrows right there coming down. 6, and I'll choose a 7. Maybe I'll make it a 5-second delay. Okay. So it loaded the motor. Under flight events, we have a parachute in there, and it's going to deploy it at the 5 seconds after engine burnout, which is the maximum ejection delay. Let me turn off this so we don't get these messages popping up here. Starting state, we're going to launch this one. Let's go a little bit into the wind. This doesn't really matter, but I'm just showing you if you get a negative number right here, that means the rocket is going towards the left, and if it's a positive number, it means it's going towards the right. My wind, which is here, I have 8 miles an hour coming out of the left. It's going to go across my screen from the left to the right at 8 miles an hour, and it's a constant speed. So right now we have no thermals set up, and that's where you would set up thermals. So let's run a quick simulation with thermals, and it loads the 2D flight profile, which is what you see here. Right here is the rocket. It's aimed almost straight up. It's a little bit going into the wind. And if we launch it, the rocket takes off, and it does weathercock into the wind. It's arcing over. These dashed lines right here we call the weathercocking cone. We would like to see the apogee point, the highest point in the flight, be inside of this cone. That means that the rocket is going more up than sideways. Up is always the safest direction. And it's coming down, and as you can see, it's coming down, nice and slow. I'm going to speed it up here by grabbing this slider bar, and I'm just going to slide it across the screen. Okay, you can see as it's descending, this is a straight line. So as it's coming down nice and straight, or it's just drifting with the wind nice and straight. That means there's no upward current of air. A thermal is a rising column of air, usually warm air. And if you'd see a thermal, you would probably see a bump in this straight line. So let's go run it with thermals. Let's turn the thermals on. So I'm going to do that same simulation. And thermals were under launch conditions. So I'm going to set up thermals. And I'm going to say it's a nice sunny day. So we have the cloud coverage is between 0%, which is no clouds at all, to about 10%. So just kind of a cloud here and there in the sky. So it's going to heat up the Earth nice and warm, and we're going to get random positions of thermals. So we don't know where that thermal is going to pop up. We'll see it when we look at that trajectory as it's coming down. So it's going to ignore all these things. It's going to give, let's make it a high strength thermal so we can really show it. So the column of air is going to be going at about 13.8 miles an hour straight up when it hits one of the thermals. And we're going to allow multiple thermals. So as the sun is heating the ground, you might have a parking lot or a field that doesn't have any crops in it, and it's nice and dark color, and that's going to collect heat, and that heat is going to start transferring to the air above the field. above the parking lot, and then it's going to start rising. And then you might have a forest, which is nice and cool, and you're not getting a lot of thermals building up over that forest. You might have a lake, which also doesn't build thermals very well, and then more field. So you're going to get, just like in real life, you're going to get thermals popping up in random places. So that's what I'm saying right here. But we're going to only allow for 3 of them. And right now the thermals, we're going to say they're going to be about 656 feet apart. So they're not going to be too close together. They're going to be spread out. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that when it launches here. So again, here's our rocket. And it's taken off. And the upward trajectory is pretty much the same because the thermals aren't really affecting it as it's going upwards. Okay, so now it's coming down, and I'm gonna speed it up again so we can see what's going on. Okay, so notice we didn't hit any thermals, but this line as it's coming down is no longer nice and straight, because whenever you have a rising column of air, you also have what's called sink, and that's cooler air descending. And so what happened here, it looks like the rocket, instead of hitting warm air going up, it hit the cool air coming down. So it came down closer to the pad because the wind was actually pushing it downwards. We could play with this and set up a different simulation. Let's go here to the starting state. So before we had minus 6 degrees, 6.3 degrees towards the left into the wind where the wind was coming from. So let's angle our rocket. Let's see if we angle it in the other direction, if we can find a thermal on the other side. So let's go and launch it from this side here. Okay, so now you can see the rocket down here, and it's angled with the wind. And let's go ahead and launch it. And it's taken off. What we're interested in here is, how the rocket is being affected by the thermals. And it's coming down. And it's coming down nice and straight, so it's not hitting anything on that flight. Okay, let's try it again. Let's change things until we get some results here. Let's move the thermal distance apart. Let's make it every 200 feet and see if that affects things. Thermal diameter, let's make that a little bit smaller. And let's set the thermal position near the pad. And let's do it again. While it's doing that, any other questions come in? Rick DeFossa says, police simulate a Jolly Logic chute release being used. Okay, so Rick, we'll try to do that next. Okay, so rocket's taking off. I'm hoping that we catch a thermal this time. Just like in real life, thermals are kind of hard to catch. Okay, so again, we're in sync. And I can tell we're in sync because it was coming down nice and flat here, but then it dog-legged right there. It angled more down, so we got in sync, so we missed the thermal. And let's do another thing here. Let's go to the rocket design. Let's make our parachute bigger so that it stays in the air longer. So instead of a 12-inch, let's make it a 24-inch. Okay, so now I got a big parachute in there, so it should be coming down a lot slower. And let's angle the rocket more up. Maybe we're missing it. Okay, let's launch. Rocket's taking off. It looks like it's catching something. It's trying to catch a thermal right there. So this is indicative of a thermal like you'd see in real life as the rocket's drifting. Sometimes the thermals will follow the wind. So as the thermal bubble leaves the ground, it's floating in the air and it's rising, but then the wind is pushing it. So in real life, sometimes those bubbles, well, that's what we try to do in competition, is we try to catch those thermals and drift our rocket away as far as possible. That's the thing about competition, is the object is to lose your rocket without losing your rocket, because you still have to get it back, but you want it to go away, away. All right, so that's how you play with thermals. It's fun. It's for simulating competition stuff. If you get a really big parachute, it is possible to actually make the rocket drift really far. So let's bump up that parachute diameter again. So right now we're at 24 inches, and let's make it really big. Okay, so we got a 55-inch parachute in there. You can see it's kind of hanging out the back, but it depends on how you fold it. So let's launch it again and see what happens. See if we can get it to float away. So we're not going to change anything on the thermal settings. We're just going to, all right. So that's how you play with thermals. Okay, so now chute release. So we'll use this same design, but we'll set it up. To set this up like a chute release, you have to set it up like a dual deployment. So even though we're not using ejection charges, you still have to have 2 recovery devices in the rocket to simulate a chute release. So now, typically in a chute release, your parachute is restrained from opening by the chute release device itself. For those of you who are watching that have never seen a chute release before, let me see if I can find one. Okay, so this is what it looks like here on the Apogee website. So it's a little device, and you set the altitude that you want the chute release to unbundle the parachute. And so you use these buttons to adjust what altitude you want. So you can go from anywhere from 100 feet above the ground to 1,000 feet above the ground. And what this little rubber band is you wrap that around the parachute and it attaches right here. And what this device does is when it senses the altitude of the rocket, and as it's coming down and it hits that trigger point, like right here it's set for 300 feet, it will release that little pin right there. There's a little servo in there that will pop that pin out, and then the rubber band comes undone and it just unwraps the parachute. Let's see if I got other photos here. You can daisy chain them together. That's what you get when you buy it. That's the little pin. That's what it looks like. I don't have any other photos other than this one here. So the chute release is wrapped around the parachute. That prevents the parachute from an opening, and this little red string prevents the chute release from falling down by itself. And if they fall in the grass, you never find them. Okay, so now we have to simulate in RockSim this happening. So you need a first recovery device, but even in real life, the rocket doesn't have a second recovery device. The parachute coming out with the chute release wrapped around it is going to act like a streamer, and it's just going to kind of flop around in the sky until that chute release pops off, and then the parachute can blossom open and then bring the rocket down slowly to the rest of the way. So the object of a chute release is have the rocket go really high and come down really fast, and then at a certain altitude, then the parachute opens. Okay, so like on that last simulation where that parachute was drifting almost to 3,000 feet away, you know, more than a half a mile away. We don't want to walk that far to get our rocket. We want it to come down closer to the pad. So we're going to set up the rocket design with a second parachute device in it, or streamer. So here's our first one. And we're going to put a second one inside of this body tube right there. So there's the body tube. So once the body tube is highlighted, you can come over here and you can either select a parachute or a streamer. If you're going to use a parachute to simulate it, just make it like really small, like 6 to 8 inches in diameter. I'm going to use a streamer, and I'll just use a 2-inch by 20-inch streamer. It doesn't matter. You just have to simulate the rocket falling fast. How fast? That is a good question, because that one you have to test. There's really no way to figure that out until you're actually flying it, figuring out the descent rate. Okay, so here's our streamer in the rocket. Let's make it, we'll make it purple. And purple. And then I'm going to move the location. I got the shoulder right there. I just want to move it behind the shoulder. So there's the streamer. Okay, so now the rocket is set up for simulating a chute release. That's all we have to do is add a second recovery device. So we're going to go prepare for launch, and we're not going to change anything at all. So we're going to leave the thermals turned on, which is right here. And we've already seen how far away it drifts with that parachute, and we got that big parachute in there. But we're going to have a second recovery device here. So now this one, we're going to deploy it at maximum ejection delay. And then the big parachute, which is no longer 12 inches, it's, I don't know what we made it, like 50-something inches in diameter. We're going to deploy that one at an altitude. And like we saw in the photo, our altitude, we're going to set it at 300 feet. So until the rocket gets to 300 feet, it's going to act like there's a streamer on it. And then once it gets to 300 feet, the parachute's going to open, and we'll get the chute release come down slow. Okay, so now it's all set up, and that's all we had to do. So we'll just hit flight profile again and see what this is going to do. So again, remember before, over here was 3,000 feet. We're not going to even get close to that. We're going to get well under 800 feet here. So we didn't change anything except for adding the chute release, which we simulated with a streamer. And we're going to launch it. And there's thermals active here, so we'll see how those thermals affect our rocket. Okay, so out pops the streamer at the top, and you can see it's falling like a rock. It's coming down really quick. Every one of those dots is 1 second apart. Right now we're at 450 feet. And when we get to 300, we should see the parachute pop out. And there's the parachute. And at this point, if it hits a thermal, it's going to start going up again. If it doesn't, it's going to come down. I think it's going to hit some sink in here, because if it continues on this trajectory, it's going to hit way out here, but I don't think it's going to. Okay, let's see what it does. Oh, maybe it is. Oh, there it hit the sink right there. And about 680 feet away, it hit cool air and it started descending really fast. So that's the trajectory. It went up really nice, came down really fast, and then it came down nice and slow, and then even here it came down. So that's how you do a chute release in RockSim. That would be the same for RockSim, RockSim Pro, or the Launch Visualizer. We have, I'm checking my comments over here, we have Johan, and he's from the Netherlands. What is this live? Of course I'm live. El Anzik says, hi from Monument. Seth Thunder asks, what is a launch lug and what is its purpose? And then we also have Michael Liggett here. So, Seth, what is a launch lug? Well, first, let's look it up on the Apogee website. So, let's go over to here, and let's type in launch lug in the search field. let's go back to the other one, see if the other one has a picture. This one doesn't either. Usually I try to put a picture of how they're used. Okay, so let me see if you can see this rocket right here. Let me make this bigger. Not really. Here on the side of the rocket is a launch lug, that little tube. And what this does is it goes on the launch rod. And that's what holds the rocket and makes sure it's pointed in the direction that we want. And the rod has a certain length that as the rocket starts burning, it's going to go up the rod in the direction that we want. And we need the length to be sufficient so that when the rocket releases from the launch rod, it's going fast enough that the fins can create lift and drag to stabilize the rocket. So that's what a launch lug does, is it allows the rocket to stabilize in the direction that we want it to go. Every rocket should have some kind of stabilization, and there's different kinds. We have, like I said, we have small ones for small rockets. We have medium size for mid-power rockets, and then for large high-power rockets, then you switch to something that's called a rail button. And that's what a rail button looks like. They're attached to the rocket. And here is a launch rail, and they slide down the rail. And the purpose is where a typical launch rod is like 36 inches or 60 inches. 60 inches is 5 feet. These rails are 8 feet long, and they're really stiff. So the wind doesn't affect them. So as the rocket's sitting on the pad, if it's just on a rod, it's kind of wobbling around because the wind is pushing on it. But with a rail, it's rock solid steady. And so there's no movement of the rocket at all. And so it goes up nice and straight in the direction that we want it to go. So that's the purpose of the launch rod or the rail. You can also use a tower launcher, which is 3 rods or rails positioned around the rocket that just kind of hold it so it can't go one direction or the other. Tower launchers are a lot more expensive, but the advantage of them is you don't have anything on the side of the rocket itself like the rail button or the launch lugs, and so that reduces the drag on the rocket, and so it can go a lot higher. Yeah. Seth Thunder asks, what do you recommend for someone to start into rockets? I just found your channel and I'm interested in knowing more about rockets. Okay, so Seth, what I would recommend is a starter set. And we have a starter set called the Apprentice. So if you're on our website, just go to the search bar and type in Apprentice. And there's 3 versions. There's the starter set, which is the top one, and then the rocket by itself. And then we have a bulk pack, and the bulk packs are for like schools. So if you click on the starter set, it shows you everything that you get. You get the rocket, you get the launch pad, and you get the launch rod that goes with the pad. You get the controller so you can set them off. You get 3 rocket engines, the igniters. You get the whole set. The only thing you need to buy extra is AA batteries for the launch controller. Batteries not included. But the batteries are what sets off the igniter, which sets off the rocket, sends us on its way. So that's where I would get started. Always start with a starter set. It's the simplest, and you get everything. So that's my recommendation. Kevin's Models and More. What's more effective, a streamer or a 6-inch parachute? I hesitate to put a streamer on my nicer rockets because I fly off hard, rocky desert ground and I want a softer touchdown. Well, you've already answered your own question. If you want a softer touchdown, go with a parachute every time. Streamers are meant to make it come down fast. We want it to come down fast. So I would recommend that you use the parachute. Al Anzik says images are not showing. I'm not sure. Oh! I forgot to turn that on. Okay, forgot to turn my screen back on. I was doing the close-up view. This is the starter set, and if you're on the Apogee website, here's the search bar here at the top. And just type in apprentice, and it pops right up. And then the launch lugs. Come on, launch lugs. Close out this pop-up. Oh, clicked on the wrong thing. Launch lugs. So here's three different. You got the rail buttons. You got the big launch lugs and the small ones. So small rockets like A's, B's, C's, and maybe a D engine, you'd use the small ones. Then the 1/4 inch, D, E, F, and G. And then if you're going anything above a G engine, definitely rail buttons or a tower launcher. Sorry about that. Al. Johan de Sloper. Hey, I couldn't help myself, but I put a 4x4 by 800 millimeter balsa fin on the D9 rocket engine in RockSim. It went really high. That's the cool thing about RockSim is you can test things that you wouldn't do. Kevin's Models and More says, hey, Retro. L. Endrick says your screen image is not being shared. It should be shared now. Seth asked, do you have any programs or courses or internships where you teach how to build those? I'm currently studying biomedical engineering in the UAE, but I'm really interested in rockets. Okay, so courses. Let's go back to the Apogee website. We have a lot of videos, Seth. So go here to How-To and Guides, and then come down here to Advanced Construction Videos. And you click on that, and this shows our last 3 videos, and you'll notice the number 347. We have 347 in the database here on our website. We actually have more than that, but if you click here where it says all videos, click on that. This will list all 347 of them. And so if you're looking for how to do anything in rockets, everybody will tell you to go to Apogee. Go to this page on our website. And if you're on this page and you want to search for something in particular, so what you do is on your keyboard, do a Command F on the Macintosh or Control F on Windows, and it pops up a little search bar right up here at the top, and then you can type in what your topic that you're interested in. So let's say I'm interested in launch lugs, and it says I have 7 videos that have that word launch lugs in them. So the first one is the X15 video, number 327. There's one on creating a new design in RockSim. How to build a rocket for plans. So this would be a good one, how to put on launch lugs and where they should go on your rocket. That would be a good one for, if you were interested in launch lugs. Flying Machine, Helirock, Texas Twister, Starlift Mega Lander, and I think that's it. Yeah, so that's what you can do if any topic that you're interested in. Let's say if you want to go launching, selecting a launch controller. Yeah, there's 347 topics that we've talked about. Lots of stuff. Yeah, where can I just wake up on a random day and build a rocket of interest? Yep, that's the goal. That's our goal here, is to get you to that point where you are designing and building your own rockets. See, our mission is your success is our mission. So if that's what you want to do, that's my mission. That's my new mission, Seth, is to get you up to speed. And that's where I would start, the how-to and guides. We also have, under the how-to and guides, not only do we have the Peak of Flight newsletter, but we have, or the advanced construction video, but we have the Peak of Flight newsletter as well. And there's 563 of these, and if you click on all newsletters, it will show you all 563 of them that we've done since 20 years ago. We started doing the newsletters, and these are bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks we send out a new one. So be sure to subscribe to that. If you go to the home page, you'll see one of these banners right here. It says sign up for our newsletter. So you get the newsletter, and then you get and basically what we're doing is we're sending you a notification that says there's a new newsletter, here's the topic, if you want to download it, here's the link. So that's what we do. It's always good information, never says, yep. That's cool, I'm glad for that. There's a lot of videos to learn from. Loving how I started in my 2022 year by finding this channel. Yeah, it's already the new year over there. We're behind here in Colorado, but I'm sure it's the new year in the UAE. Johan says, now I want to build an X15. Yeah, X15. So if you haven't built an X15, oops, not an X25, we want an X15. That's what that looks like. Cool, huh? Let's see what else we have. Now we're getting a lot of questions here. I'm headed for my level 1, says Dennis Cross. I'm finishing up a Super DX3 this winter. Is it possible or advised to use multiple shuts? Thinking of running 2 with the first being, I think he says chutes, parachutes. I'm thinking of running 2 with the first being small to act as a drogue parachute and the second a larger closer to ground. Is it possible to sim in RockSim? Dennis, you must have just missed our discussion here, because what we did on this simulation, this is basically set up just like what you're talking about. It's called dual deployment. Although when we talked about it here, we talked about it in reference to the chute release, but it's the same principle. 2 recovery devices, one opens at Apogee, and then one opens lower near the ground so you don't have to walk as far. Although in this simulation we had super huge parachute, and that's why it went so far. So Dennis, just kind of back up on this episode and you'll see exactly how to set that up. You basically add your second recovery device, and then you go to the flight events and adjust those for dual deployment, and it's quick. You can do it in 5 minutes. Kevin's Models and More says, Tim, I took a Wizard kit and custom built Zephyr Junior Micro. One of my best flying rockets almost hit 2,000 feet on a C engine. That's cool. So he kit bashed. What he did was he took a Wizard kit and then just made it really small and made it look like the Zephyr. So if you're not familiar with the Zephyr and what that looks like. So we have 2 Zephyrs. We have the big Zephyr, which is 4 inches in diameter, and we have the Zephyr Junior, which is 2.2 inches in diameter. So it looks like this. And that's an actual launch photo. And so what Kevin said was he made this, and he made it really small. He probably made it about like that tall. Okay, what's the level 1 certification for? Asks Seth. Okay, so in the United States, and I don't know about other countries except for the United States and Canada, maybe Australia, we have a safety program that we institute. It was instituted by the National Association of Rocketry in Tripoli. When you're flying a big rocket, like anything above an H motor, so the Zephyr, which is the 4-inch diameter version. So I showed you the Zephyr Junior, which was the small one. Here is the bigger one. And this is a 4-inch diameter rocket, and so you can see how big it is. And because it's so big, it has the potential to do a lot of damage. If this thing came screaming down at you from 1,000 feet, it's heavy and it could poke a hole, and you don't want to be the one it poked a hole into. And the motors are so powerful that they take off so fast that it puts a lot of stress on the rocket. And if you're going really fast and your rocket is not built for handling high speeds, it's going to start shredding parts. You know, fins are going to come off, and once the fins come off, it's going to go unstable, and then you don't know where it's going to go. And so the safety certification program was instituted to guide Rocketeers through the process of knowing how to handle these bigger, high-power motors. And there's, in the United States, Canada, and Canada actually has 4 levels. But in the United States, there's 3 levels of certification. The first one is for H and I motors. So level 1 certification, you can, on something like this, you can buy an H engine or an I engine. And then you're certified to fly those. And then once you're certified, then you can buy as many motors as you want. And then the next level is J motors. Now a J motor is twice as powerful as an I motor, or 4 times as powerful as an H motor. So this is a big motor, lots of power. It's a lot more power than just an H motor, and you really have to be ready for it. And so level 2 is J, K, and L size rocket engines. Big stuff. And so there's a second process that you have to go through to be able to buy and fly those kind of motors. And then the third level, level 3 certification, is M motors and bigger. Anything bigger than an M motor. Now an M motor, the smallest one is 3 inches in diameter, 75 millimeters. And I think it's about like that long. I don't know if you can see my hands. It's about, 3 feet long. The one that I flew on my level 3 certification was a 4-inch diameter, and it was probably about 24 inches long. And my rocket that I flew was 6 inches in diameter and 14 feet long. I think it was. I think I did it in 2015, so it's been a while since I've flown it. And we do these certification programs because it keeps the government off of our back. Because the United States government, they don't want people flying rockets willy-nilly, and they want them to be safe. And if you're safe, and if you follow the safety protocols, they're very tolerant of rocketry. Rocketry has a very good reputation with the FAA because of our safety certification program. And the safety certification program is not to prevent you from flying big rockets. It's to guide you through the process. And we want you to be certified. I want you to fly high power because I'm going to sell more rocket motors. And I think everybody is on your team. They want you to fly high power rockets, because the more people we get involved, the bigger the hobby is going to grow, more people are going to come in, we're going to have more fun, just more fun. So we're on your side. This is about you flying in your mission. So that's the safety certification program. I saw software similar to yours called OpenRocket. What's the difference between RockSim and OpenRocket? The difference is OpenRocket, they kind of stole RockSim, but we're making RockSim even better. Retro Starships says, that's really cool, Kevin. Kevin says, I got my level 1 with a Zephyr on an H219. Cool. We can barely keep these Zephyr kits in stock. In fact, on the other side of this wall right here, My daughter wanted to work. She's home from school. And so I have her right now making Zephyr kits because we're flying through these things because they just fly off the shelf because it's such a great rocket. It's big and beefy, and it's built like a tank. It's got really great components. You know, look, this beautiful like 48-inch nylon parachute, big nose cone, a heat shield down here to protect the parachute. It doesn't come with the camera. Whoever sent me this photo has a camera on board. It's a nice rocket. Here's another photo of it coming down, taking off. It's an all-around great rocket. And so for getting the level 1 certification, can't go wrong. Seth says, why does it start from the I and J motors? This level 1 certification actually starts with an H motor. So to get the level 1 certification, you can either buy an H motor or an I motor. And then the J motor is level 2. And it all has to do with the power of the motor, because when you go from one letter to the next, like an I to a J, it doubles in power. It's just not a little bit, it doubles. So that's, you know, you can think of how fast an I motor comes off the pad, double that. In the Netherlands, also cert level 1 from an H motor. That's good because they're triple E. From an E to G motors, it's free to launch, but you need a permit for storing and transporting these engines. Yeah, every country is different, and this is why we don't actually ship rocket motors outside the United States, because there's just so many regulations. Each country has their own, and we're not really set up for that. And Kevin Modelsabor says, you made the right choice in Christmas ornaments this year. So what Kevin's talking about is we did a Christmas ornament. And last year was this one. Let me open up this one first, and then I'll open up this one. So this year's our Christmas ornament looks like the Zephyr. It's just a little bitty Zephyr. Looks like that. And it's pretty. And last year, for 2020, yes, that was the year of Corona. So we did a coronavirus rocket, where inside the rocket was a coronavirus. We just had a little bit of fun with that. Okay, so I think I got all the questions. If I missed your question, type it again, and I can redo it. Nothing. Okay, let's go back to RockSim. I'll show you what I've been playing on with this week while we're waiting for another question. I'm going to open up a new window here, and I want to show you the launch visualizer, because as of yesterday, the programmers got it working really good. The launch visualizer is online, so there's no software to download. You just go to the website rocksim.com, so rocksim.com, and it should load it up. Of course, that was yesterday when it was running really fast, and today it runs really slow. Because it should be open like that. Okay. Come on. Okay, so what the launch visualizer does is it's like RockSim. It can run the simulation, but the difference is it doesn't allow you to design rockets. Our goal eventually is to put everything in the cloud so that there's no software to download. You can just fire up your web browser and launch rockets. And so this is what it looks like when you come to here. I need to log in. There's 3 versions of the software. There's the free one where it doesn't require any sign-in at all. And then you can create a free account, and then you can have the paid version. And each level gives you more features. So I'm going to log in. And This way I have access to all the features. So now when I log in, I should be under a premium account. I wonder if it's because I'm on Wi-Fi or something, because it's running slow. So I come here to to the profile. It says I'm a premium member, and I have this many credits, so I have the most credits. So here I'm going to open a design, and what I've been working on yesterday was playing with a design called the Habu, which I think I showed you in the RockSim file. So I'm going to select it, and it should load it right here. There it is. And you can see, you can see the rocket in 3D with the decals on the rocket, which is really cool. So right now, out of the west, and I need to put in a rocket motor. So I'm going to come down here to select a rocket motor. Let me make this screen a little smaller so that I'm not off to the edge, so you can see everything. Because right down here at the bottom is the launch button, and you can see that. So here's the launch site. Yesterday I was launching from Hawaii. I found a rocket club in Hawaii, and I said, I wonder where they're launching from. And so I went to their launch site and type in Hawaii, and it's the Hawaii Kai Rocketeers. I'm going to choose that launch site. And it's loading an image of what this launch site looks like. And what you can see is they're launching from the beach. There's a park along the beach near Honolulu, Hawaii. So I'm backing out to give you kind of a perspective of, where this launch site is in relation to Hawaii. There's Hawaii and Honolulu. No, I think this is Honolulu. And this is a little bit further to the east, right along the beach, and there's this park right here that I was noticing. Looks like there's a golf course along there as well. So we're going to launch from right there. I need to angle it, give it an adjustment. So right now I'm going to the northeast, and let's make it to the northwest. I want to make sure I don't go into the water. This is what the launch visualizer is all about, is trying to avoid those ground hazards. I'm going to leave the wind alone. So we got the wind at 8 miles an hour. Let's load a rocket engine. This is just like RockSim. You'll choose an engine from the database, and let's go with an Estes C6. And let's make it a C6.5. Click OK. So now the rocket engine is loaded. You can see it right up here. The ejection delay is 5 seconds. Engine is C6, and it's going to use 9 of my credits. And you can see how many credits I have up here. So I got a lot of credits to use up. And we're going to go check the parachute, and the parachute is set to deploy at maximum ejection delay, which was 5 seconds after engine burnout. So now we'll just go ahead and launch. Just click on the launch button, and we'll simulate. And it's running right now, and now it's loading the simulation, and it loaded it, and we should see this rocket on the launch pad sitting on the beach. So we're zoomed in, we're looking at beach sand right there, and if I zoom out, there's the water's edge. There's some cars parked along the beach. Let's swing this around so it's going to the north. Okay, north is now off in the distance, and this is full 3D. And just like in RockSim, we have a weathercocking cone, and you can kind of see the shadow of the cone right here. This is 3-dimensional, so it is a full cone. And the rocket, you can kind of gauge how high the rocket is going to go by how tall that cone is. So you can see the edge of my cone. It's hard to see, but it's right there. So we need to zoom out, keep the cone in the viewport. And actually I want to see the entire trajectory. So I'm going to go to a trajectory view here. And it swung my north around, so I'm going to move my north back to where it was. I want to stay out of the water is my goal. I don't care if it lands on a mountain. That mountain doesn't look like it has too many trees on it. Okay, so that's kind of close enough. Let's zoom in, and okay, so now we're going to see the simulation, and just like RockSim, we'll just click on the play button. And the rocket was down here, and it's taken off, and you can see the flame coming out, and now it's burned out, and it's coasting. And the white smoke is the booster smoke, and the blue is the tracking smoke. You can see it's arcing over at the top, and at this point the parachute popped out, and there is my apogee point, that little green dot right there. And it's a green dot, which means that it's inside the weathercocking cone. So I'm just kind of rotating it around. And now we're looking at the ground track here, and we're going to see, are we going to be in the water, or are we going to be at the water's edge? So does anybody want to make a prediction? I'll pause it right here and check to see if anybody's going to make a prediction in the comments. Johan says, I ran into problems with Freeform Fin. Sometimes it gives me a real long root edge line, sometimes twice the length of the model. Is that a bug? Okay, I'll talk about that one in just a second, Johan. Carlos says the fin editor works better if you lower your mouse speed. That's fine. I don't think that's the problem. Use a slider and adjust the root so it does not expend past the end of the airframe. That's Fat Bank. You win the prize. You know what the solution is. Don't let the fin go past where the root edge. Don't let it go past the back end of the tube. And Johan says thanks. And Fat Bank, his prediction says it's going to be in the water. And Marcel says it's going to be dry. So let's take a look, see where the rocket's going to land. Okay, let's continue the simulation. It's got another 17 seconds to go. I'm going to zoom in. It looks like it's going parallel to the road right here. This red line is the ground path. And it's going to be really close. I'm going to pause it right there. Oops. Not close enough. Okay, so it's dry, so Marcel wins. But is it going to get run over by a car? That's the next question. I am trying to, looks like that might have been a car, and that's the road's edge. So the car just missed it. Okay, so this is the launch visualizer, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it, and it's working a lot better now, and you can really see, you know, the 3D terrain of the Earth, and, you know, get a bird's eye view of where you're launching from. I always like launching from other clubs' webs, you know, other club launch sites. And the only way for me to launch from Hawaii is here in the launch visualizer. Although if the people in Hawaii want to send me a ticket to come launch with them, I'm all for it. Okay, so this is a freeform fin, because you can tell it's a freeform because it has a curve right here. And so what Johan was saying was sometimes the root edge, you get this little spike coming way off the back of the tube. And that is because that the edge where it meets the tube right here is too close to the edge. And the easy fix is to not let it get to zero. So if I zoom in right here, you can see, and I can adjust it by moving this slider bar. And if I have it selected from the base of the owning part, when I move the slider bar to the right, the fin moves to the left. If I switch it around from the front of the owning part, now it acts more like the same direction. So if I move the slider to the left, the fin will move to the left. Okay, so see right now the fin is off the back edge of the tube. I recommend when you're designing fins to select the base of the owning part as the reference point. So right now it's a negative 0.64 inches. And if I make it 0.001 and then hit the tab key, you see that the fin has moved, even though it looks like it's on the very edge. If I zoom in, keep zooming in, you can see that it's just a smidge forward. But for all practical purposes, in real life, you'd call it at the base of the part. So that will correct that problem if you're getting a spike coming off, a line coming off the back of the edge of the fin. So we know about that issue, and someday we'll get it fixed. Oh boy, the last launch we did this year went, but the ejection charge didn't go off. It landed very hard over a canal into the ground. I'm sorry, Johan, that happens. Mark Sell says, I don't think you're allowed to shoot down cars. And Fatbank says, I suggest a launch from the dead volcano. Did I leave that open, or did I close it? I closed it. But yes, you can do that in the launch visualizer. You can launch it from the center of the dead volcano. We're going a little long here, but why not? Let's go back to RockSim.com. And I should have left it open. It's because now it's got to reload. When I closed it, it's going to load the Avion instead of the Habu kit that I had before. But I'm going to go to the launch site. I'm going to go choose a launch site. I'm going to, in the search bar, when it pops up, I'm going to type in Hawaii. Okay, and then it brought this up, and click on that. Click OK. And so now we are back to the beach. Okay, so now we just need to find the volcano. Okay, so there's the volcano. And to launch from the middle of the volcano, you just put your mouse right there and double click. Okay, so now that's the new launch pad location. All right, and so let's get out of the trees. So I'm going to put my new launch pad right there, in between all those trees. Let's load a rocket engine. Choose an engine. Let's put a D motor in there to make sure it goes high. See if we can get above the rim of the volcano. And let's launch it. Yes, confirm that launch site and simulate it. And while it's running, this will be our last thing here for today. It takes it a second to load all the maps in the background. Okay, so now if I zoom out, let me get the trajectory view. Okay, so I am in the middle of the volcano. Okay, so are we gonna go above the rim of the volcano? I think we are, and you can tell that again by the weathercocking cone. It looks like that weathercocking cone is a lot higher than the edge of the volcano. So let's launch. And the rocket's coming out of the volcano. It's spewing fire! The volcano has come alive. And the rocket's going up. Yeah, we're well above the edge of the volcano. And you can see the wind is drifting to the east like we had. Rocket is way high. Find the rocket in the sky. There it is. And you see all this pixelation in the background. That is just because it has to load the maps. As it loads the maps, they'll get more and more crisp. So like if I pause it right here and give it a chance to load up the maps, eventually those will look really nice, like these ones here in the foreground. There they come. Now they're starting to come into view. Okay, so let's see where this thing lands. I think we should be dry on this one as well. Oh, look at that. We landed off the side of the mountain. Isn't that cool? I like how it follows the terrain of the earth there. Just like it would in real life. All right, well, so give RockSim Launch Visualizer a try. It's got some sample designs in there, so you can, if you're just using the free version, just load up one of those sample designs, launch it. Until you log in, you can't launch from the volcano. You need an account, so that's the next level up. The first level is you launch from my launch site here in Colorado. If you want to choose your own launch site, then you have to create an account. We're finishing up the beta testing of the Launch Visualizer, and so it won't be long, and then we're going to clear everybody's account. So if you create an account today, we're going to clear it out once we go live, when we call it live, when we actually start taking money. And that won't be too far away. We're just having some issues with the credit card processor right now so that we can be able to take money. We can actually take money right now, but if you decide to stop the Launch Visualizer and you don't want to be charged every month, that's the problem right now. So until we give you the option of quitting, we don't want to take your money, because otherwise you can't quit. Which wouldn't be bad for me, but it's not ethical. We don't want to take your money if you're not going to be able to make and choose. All right, so as Johan says, Happy New Year, everybody. It's still New Year's Eve here in Colorado, so we've got about a little under 9 hours to go before New Year's Day. Yeah, so if it's New Year's where you are, Happy New Year. And we will be back again next week, which should be January 7, at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 4 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. Now that we've got an international audience, I got to figure out what time, that would be in GMT time. Johan is probably pretty close to the GMT timeline there in the Netherlands. So yes, everybody have a Happy New Year and a blessed New Year, and we'll see you again next year, which is actually in just a few days. So thanks for watching, and if you're watching on YouTube, come join us on Friday afternoons. It's a lot of fun. So thank you. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch.